What up, y'all? It's your man Abuamerican. I'm back. You know how many videos I have to do, and I'm still working on, and then I get distracted by some farkery that I see somewhere, and then I get taken off course. I still have to finish my R/K selection series on the black community in the West. I'm still working on that. Tangent. Anyway, I want to go in on Black Pigeon Speaks. Now, I do listen to him because he's an eloquent speaker, but he kind of really irritated me with his latest anti-Islamic scree. And he goes off on a lot of them, but this one, he just really irritated me. And he's talking about Muslims being pedophiles. And he brings up the pedophile ring. The Asian Muslim grooming group in the UK. And it's funny that he called them Muslim grooming group. You know, they groomed young girls by the thousands. I don't think it reached the thousands, but if it did, whatever. I'd like to see some stats on that. Nonetheless, first off, let me shoot that out the water. These guys aren't a Muslim grooming group. They're a bunch of pervs, like the West has. And if you haven't noticed, there are a lot of pedophiles in the West also who are not Muslim. But these guys in specific were not Muslim pedophile rings because they didn't go out and get married. You see, in Islam, we don't have sexual contact with women of any sort or of any age without marriage. So they didn't go have Sharia marriage contracts with these young girls as a first wife, only wife, or a third wife, and then, you know, pedophile groom them or whatever the heck you want to call it. No, they were just a bunch of creepos doing creepo stuff. And they happen to be Muslim. Now, I don't hear him throwing all the non-Muslim creepos out there under the bus when we look at like Germany and the Netherlands and all these places with like exceptionally high registries of pedophile males that are registered and they're not Muslim. Do we bring the religion of those guys into that? Sometimes people are just jerks, you know that? Sometimes people are Muslims and they're jerks. Sometimes people are Christians and they're jerks. Or actually, it's the other way around. Sometimes people just happen to be jerks and they're Muslim also. And some people happen to be jerks and they're Christians also. But fine. You want to throw Muslims under the bus even though they didn't go to a masjid or anywhere else and get married to these girls. You make it like it's a religious thing. Yet these guys didn't bring religion into it. They just went out and did dirt. They didn't go out and say, hey, you know what, young girl, you young pubescent girl, if you marry me, No, it wasn't even a marriage thing. What they did in Islam is called zina, fornication. And if any of them were married, the Islamic ruling in an Islamic state is death. And if they aren't married in an Islamic state, the punishment is caning or whipping. So how is it Islamic what they did? When Islam opposes this to the point that they would put you to death if you were married, man, or they'd whoop your butt raw if you weren't married. Now, you might want to call those punishments harsh, but you don't find a whole bunch of baby mama drama going on out in the Middle East. They don't have that problem. They don't have all this farkery with like exceptionally high sexually transmitted diseases and just, you know, random kids with, you know, don't know who his daddy is. You don't have these problems in the Middle East. So let me throw that under the bus first. So now I'm going to go into something else. I'm going to go into some details here. Excuse me. And we're going to go with the premise that the UK is the Western standard bearer of good behavior. Now, the legal age of consent, aka sexual contact with a girl in specific, I didn't check with the boys because the ages do vary across the globe, but the age of consent in the United Kingdom for sexual contact is 16 years old. Now, as to whether or not you legally stand up to it, like, see, I'm 43 and I go out and I, like, get busy with a 16-year-old, how that stand up in court, I don't know. But in technical law, in speech, 16 is the age of consent. So technically, I could marry, by legal standards of the United Kingdom, a 16-year-old, although I wouldn't do it because, then, you know, she could hang out with, like, my daughter. My daughter's 15, so I just find it strange, and it's just not the way of Westerners that we do this. But some countries it is acceptable. Fine, fair enough. That's their culture. That's their way. You want to pass judgment on it, you know, I'm an American, so for me it sounds odd and iffy. But I'm not going to say it's wrong for those people. If that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. Anyway, I made a list of all the countries where girls are allowed to marry under the UK standard, the global torchbearer of righteousness and goodness, their age of 16, their age consent of 16. So anyone below 16, you're going into pedo zone. Although there's a disagreement on this, and I'll come into that why later on. But let's just say the UK is the standard bearer, which they aren't. But I'm just going to say for now, for the sake of this video, that they are. All right? So I'm going to go over this list that I wrote down. I'm going to go through the ages that you're allowed to be married to a girl, and whether it's a Muslim or non-Muslim country. So let's go. Andorra, 14, non-Muslim. Angola, 15, non-Muslim. Antigua, non-Muslim, 15. Bahrain, Muslim country, 15 years old. Belarus, non-Muslim country, 14. Bolivia, 14, non-Muslim country. Brunei, 13, it is a Muslim country. Cameroon, 15, non-Muslim country. Colombia, 12 years old, non-Muslim country. This is 2016, guys. Costa Rica, 15, non-Muslim. Cuba, 14, non-Muslim. Congo, 15, non-Muslim. Ecuador, 12 years old, non-Muslim country. El Salvador, 14, non-Muslim country. Estonia, 15, non-Muslim country. Gabon, I couldn't find out whether or not that was a Muslim country or not. I didn't look it up, but I have Gabon. I believe that's a non-Muslim country. I'm just going to leave that as question mark. Someone let me know. 15 years old. Guatemala, 14, non-Muslim. Iran, 9 years old with judicial consent. Meaning if you can get judicial consent from the courts, then you can marry a 9-year-old. Now, I would like someone who lives in Iran to tell me as to whether or not they've seen a 9-year-old bride anywhere. Iraq, 15, Muslim country. Jordan, 15, Muslim country. Kuwait, 15, Muslim country. Laos, 15, non-Muslim. Lithuania, 15, non-Muslim. Mexico, 14, non-Muslim. Nicaragua, 14, non-Muslim. Niger, 14, non-Muslim or Muslim? Someone tell me. Panama, 14, non-Muslim. Paraguay, 14, non-Muslim. Romania, 15, non-Muslim. Sao Tome, 14, non-Muslim. Saudi Arabia says 10 years old. They say unconfirmed. I've been to Saudi Arabia twice. I have people who live there. More than one friend. They've never seen a 10-year-old bride. If you can find one, bring it. Seychelles, 15, non-Muslim. Solomon Islands, 14, non-Muslim. South Africa, 15, non-Muslim. Sudan, 10 years old, again, unconfirmed. If you can find me a Sudanese 10-year-old bride, please put it up here so I can know. Suriname, 15, non-Muslim. Syria, 13, Muslim. And there was some dispute about whether or not this is in the territories controlled by ISIS or non-ISIS. Tanzania, 14, Muslim, majority. Bahrain, 15, Bahamas, 15, non-Muslim. Trinidad and Tobago, 12 years old, non-Muslim. USA, with judicial consent, 12 years old, non-Muslim. Uruguay, 12, non-Muslim. Venezuela, 14, non-Muslim. That was the list I had. So, what do you guys think? Looks like you guys are slam dunking on the Muslims when it comes down to, pubescent brides. But we're the bad guys, huh? Anyway, as for marrying pubescent girls or whatnot, the non-Muslims like to use the argument of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam marrying Aisha. And he married her at 6, consummated the marriage at 9. Correct. Now, if you do your research, you will find that Islamically, a girl is considered a woman when she starts menstruating, aka she can reproduce herself. So that means she can reproduce another copy of herself, be it male or female, of her and her partner. Then she's considered to be a woman. And then all the rights and the rules of womanhood are upon her, from covering and praying and all these other things, and that are upon her. Now, here's the thing. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be pleasant be upon him, was a hated man in his time, up just until he died, when Islam spread rapidly and people started entering into Islam in great numbers. But before that, he was a highly hated man. And the Arabs, both then and now, have this thing that they talk about. It's called summa, like it's reputation. And reputation to Arabs is everything, back then and now. And what the people used to do is they used to try and ruin his summa. They would call him a magician and a soothsayer, and they'd call him all sorts of names to try and ruin his reputation so that he would lose any support, be it tribal or his companions. Because in those times, if you didn't have tribal support of your people, oh man, you were under the bus. You were out in the wild, basically, and you could be taken as a slave, you could be killed, nobody would protect you. If you didn't have your tribe's protection, you were in trouble. And so these people were insulting and offending him and attacking him verbally in the beginning to try and ruin his reputation, his summa, so that his people would disown him, and then he could become permissive to where they could like hack him up and get him and kill him or whatever else they could do or would do. And one of his uncles used to protect him. Now, here's the thing. They used to throw him under the bus for, saying you're throwing away our ancestral gods. You're breaking our Arab traditions. You're a magician in speech. You're a magician in action. You're this, you're that. And they used to throw all these insults at him. But one thing they didn't insult him about was him marrying Aisha. Why? Because at that time, in that region, it was considered to be normal to marry girls of that age. That's why. And as we know from Europe, in that time and in that age, it was also normal to marry girls of that age. So why do you act like this is some great exception in human history? And he's the only one who ever did it. Because if you look at European history, it is exactly the same. There is no difference. The Japanese were known for it. Yet and still Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, may peace and blessings be upon him. This great man, he's the one you want to throw under the bus. You don't throw the European kings of the past under the bus, do you? I didn't even do research in depth on it. I did it in the past and I lost the notes. And I actually probably should have done it for this video. Maybe I'll come back and make another one, since I'm having so much fun making these videos right now, showing you that in the past in Europe, this was normal to marry girls of that age from the moment they hit puberty and up. And if you were like an older girl, nobody wanted you. Because you know what? Back in the past, people died earlier. So it was important to reproduce earlier. You would be a lucky individual to live into your 30s and 40s. Amazingly lucky person with sicknesses, illnesses, wars, all sorts of stuff going on back then. Unsecure cities and states. You walk outside to the river to get something to drink and a crocodile or a tiger eats you. It was important to reproduce as early as possible. And so that's what our ancestors did. Both European, Middle Eastern, African, Asian, all of them used to do it. Now times have changed, and we've been given the blessing of allowing our children a longer adolescence. But really, this is kind of new in human history, to where we've had this level of comfort and security to where we can allow our children to be children so long. It just shows your hate and your dislike, your bias. You are trying to use the historical context of that situation with current standards of living and understandings and lifestyles. How do you do that? They used to ride camels. They used to walk and ride camels and drink dirty water. These were people who fought wars with swords and bows and arrows. It's a totally different time. How do you make that comparison to now, when it's completely different times, places, mentalities? Do we as Muslims say that a girl who hits puberty is a woman? Yes, we do. But find me a Muslim country, including Saudi Arabia or what was it, Sudan, where someone's going to marry you to a 10-year-old. Go ahead and try. Muslim, go ahead. Someone tell me, raise your hand and say, yeah, I saw in Saudi Arabia, I saw in Sudan and the other places I've named a bride that young. Someone please show me. Because I've been to nearly 40 countries in my lifetime, lived in 6, Saudi Arabia being one of those countries. I have yet to see it. I haven't seen it. I got friends that live in Saudi Arabia. They haven't seen anything like that. Go ahead, show me. Show me. You talk the talk, show me. Put the proof down. Don't just start like making stuff up out of the blue and just, oh, the Muslims this and they do that. Yeah, okay. You know what? We have things that are permissible, but we don't do sometimes. You know that? And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't put us in opposition to Islam just because we don't marry off our girls who just hit puberty. It doesn't make you like in opposition to Islam. It doesn't. We marry off women that are 30. We marry off women that are 18. What are we opposing Islam now? So what are you guys saying? When you non-Muslims say this, they marry pubescent girls and all that stuff, are you saying we're opposing Islam because we're not marrying our daughters off at 9 years old? Is that what you're telling me? Because I was in Saudi, I ain't seen any 9-year-old brides. I've been around this world except for the Far East, and I have yet to see this stuff. But obviously you know more than me, and I've been a Muslim since 1998. Obviously you know more than like so many thousands of Muslims that I've met in all the Muslim countries I've been to. I haven't seen a 15-year-old bride. Has someone seen one? Please point it out to me. Someone show me. Someone raise your hand and say, I was a 15-year-old bride, Abuamerican, and I feel oppressed. Please? Can I get that? If not, all you dudes talking all that crap need to take a seat. Just like I am right here, relaxing. See, I got my feet up. Sit down and shut up. I'm just going to say it like that. Sit down and shut up. I said it in the last video. If you're ignorant, why are you talking? And if you're a liar, why is anybody listening? Take a seat, son. Take a seat. I wonder if I missed any points here. Anyway, I'm going to go back to my r/k selection theory. I got a bunch of videos coming out. I've just got a backlog. I got a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to fill you guys into it pretty soon. Got some critical stuff coming down the pipeline. It's going to be some life-changing stuff for me. So, I can't help but tell you guys. I put it all out there. So this is your man, Abuamerican. Catch me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all at Abuamerican. I'm out.